following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.
Hello, everybody. This is Mark Longo from the Options Insider Radio Network, and I'm breaking into your regularly scheduled programming to let you know about an upcoming event that I think is going to interest quite a few of you. It's called The Future of Options Trading, Finding Edge Outside the Pit, and it's going to be held on November 5th here in Chicago. This is the inaugural conference from the Options Alliance, a new industry trade association that I am privileged to be a part of. And this conference will address the numerous issues facing the fastest growing segment of the options market, namely options entrepreneurs. So who is this event for? Well, if you're a current or former market maker and you're looking for some ways to leverage that unique skill set in some exciting new areas, well, then this event is for you. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you're hoping to learn a little bit more about the options market, which is the most dynamic segment of the financial marketplace, but also can be a little bit intimidating, well, then this event is for you. And if you or your firm are looking to expand the reach of your products or services by learning more about the unique needs of options entrepreneurs and new startups and new ventures, then this event is definitely for you. We've got a lot of great speakers lined up covering a wide array of topics, including how to leverage that trading and market-making mindset and skill set into other unique opportunities, also overcoming the typical roadblocks and stumbling blocks that may lay in the path of a new option startup or entrepreneur, and of course, perhaps most importantly, how to promote and market that new option startup or new venture that you're planning. Now, I've been to my fair share of options conferences, so I could say with some certainty that there's never been an event quite like this. Take advantage of this unique opportunity to meet with and learn from the entrepreneurs who are out there doing it, building new businesses, starting exciting new ventures in the options market. You can learn more by surfing on over to www.optionsalliance.org and then clicking on the event sign-up tab at the bottom of the page. A lot of people say that their space is limited, but we really do mean it. So if this event interests you, reserve your seat today. Thanks for listening, and now I'll return you to your regularly scheduled program.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block. With your host, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com and co-hosts Mike Tusaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com and Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Options Express. Don't spend time worrying about your broker. At Options Express, security, stability, and account protection are the most important responsibilities to our customers. Secure account access, enhanced financial protection, entrusted with over $7 billion in customer assets, established financial stability. Options Express lets you trade with confidence. Stocks, options, and futures, all in one account. Trade with a specialist. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio to open your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
Welcome to the Option Block. No, it's not Mark Longo, it's Mark Sebastian. I am guest hosting while Mark goes and frolics in Disneyland. But don't worry, folks, we're still going to have all sorts of great stuff to talk about today. And with me is Alex Jacobson from Options Express. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, Mark. Good. Wonderful day today. Real busy. Market up over 300. What a difference a day makes.
Yeah, crazy. How was your? You got any big plans going into the weekend? You excited for the Bears game tonight?
I am looking forward to the Bears game, and then I'm going to a wedding in Seattle. The bachelor party was last weekend, so I don't remember much of the first couple days of the week here, but I have a nephew getting married. What about you?
Well, tomorrow's actually my 5th wedding anniversary. So happy
congratulations.
Thank you. Or condolences to my wife, one of the two. I'm a lucky man. I've been married to Lauren for 5 years. I don't know how she puts up with me. I mean, you guys can barely deal with me, 45 minutes twice a week. Imagine having to be her. She's a saint. But, enough about us. Let's roll out of the banter block, if you will, and roll into the trading block.
The trading block.
All right, and here we are in the trading block. What a difference a day makes, as Alex just said. We have the Dow Jones up 323 points today. The NASDAQ 100 was up 68 handles, and the SPX was up $36. Meanwhile, the cash VIX trades below 16.5, a drop of over 3% today. Just a huge drop. And then Vol got just torched on VIX options as well. VIX futures down heavily. Really, the only place you really saw anywhere red was VIX and gold. So, Alex, what were you seeing today?
Just green lights everywhere. As you said, except for the metals and except for VIX. VIX moving a 300% volatility in the last couple of trading days. That's not going to be an easy animal if you were on the short side or if you're the risk manager of a brokerage house. That was it's tough stuff to manage. The desks up here were just busy, constantly busy all day. And as you said, Mark, the only thing down today other than volatility was gold. And gold really got crushed in the last 15, 20 minutes before we started the show. I mean, it was down $8 or $9 and moved down almost to the down 20 range. So there were sellers in gold today.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's got to be some sort of U.S. dollar type of thing, because something relating to deficit. Interestingly, what I was a little surprised on was that the long bond got bid a little bit. They were buying the 10-year and the 30-year. Now, one interesting thing that happened was, there was big news yesterday about Fidelity dumping out of their 30-day Treasury holdings. And, I jokingly said that was the bottom, and of course it was the bottom. But we saw some interesting action of people moving around their duration in, the near-term Treasury notes, which is really interesting because, Alex, how often do traders ever really talk about T-bills with 30 to 90 days to expire?
Yeah, nobody. And actually, we talked about it a little bit on Monday's show because we saw the big spike in the front end of the curve. And clearly what it was, or what I assume it was the money funds frightened about busting the buck. Yeah. If stuff didn't get redeemed, which of course seems absurd, except, you turn on TV and everybody was like, we're going over the cliff this time. The dysfunction in Washington this time is really going to happen. And given the events of 2008 and the challenge of busting the buck, it just doesn't pay to take the risk of not getting paid back. I mean, yields are, if you're talking round numbers on the short end, they're nothing. So, why take the risk of not getting paid back or being delayed getting paid back? And so people moved out. However, now it looks like moving out may be problematic because depending on how long this dysfunction lasts in D.C., we may just be kicking the can forward to the end of the year.
Right. Well, in D.C., let's recall, if they can kick a can, they're going to kick a can. That's what they do. Hard decisions are not for politicians. That's one thing. Yeah. Now, it's interesting. Just incredible what's going on. I mean, this is the biggest move we've had since the last deal at the beginning of the year. 2 days ago, we saw the VIX future trade up to 1938, and it closed 1620 day. So the VIX futures moved almost as hard as cash VIX. Just unbelievable. Just you could almost hear volatility sucking out of the market. But the interesting thing is, if you look, there's still room for VIX to drop here. I mean, if they actually sign a deal, VIX could go below 14 tomorrow, especially into the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we do get a deal here, and it is a sort of a permanent deal, not just kicking the can, I think we take this whole last 15 or 20 days of trading, and VIX goes back to the 12 area, and the market takes out the highs, and we're on our way to 16,000 in the Dow and 1,800 in the S&P. But that assumes the dysfunction ends in Washington, and saying the dysfunction ends is a long shot.
I agree. I'm really going to be interested to see kind of how this all moves around. I guess the one thing we can say is when Boehner said, "I'm not going to let the government default," he meant it. So, given how bad things were looking, I think this is the best alternative, and it was the Republicans' only way to do this and save face. So it was just a crazy day, but just an absolute implosion in vol. And, if a deal's signed for the 6-week deal, I think you'll see VIX probably trade down to 14, stick in the 13.5 to 15 range for the next 4 weeks. Then we'll get to, we'll start looking at, it'll be interesting because 6 weeks from now puts us right around Thanksgiving. So when was the last time you saw when was the last time you saw a Thanksgiving where traders weren't jumping over each other to sell volatility? This may be one of those.
Yeah, I agree. If they kick the can down the road, we're going to keep some vol in the market. But if they do resolve this, which again is a long shot, but if they do resolve this, I think we're back in bull market mode. I think everyone is glad to see Janet Yellen as the new Fed chief. Actually, let me rephrase that. I think many people were happy to see Janet Yellen. They think the accommodative stance of the Fed will continue, and there are people who like that. There are people who don't like it. Watching CNBC last night, and Stephen Forbes was on, and he clearly has an agenda which is not in line with what the Fed has been doing.
Right.
So he was clearly critical of it. So I don't want to say everybody will be happy to see Janet Yellen, but from a standpoint of QE and the Fed, the folks who supported what Bernanke did are liking the appointment of Yellen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting trade. The general argument on QE, you could make a case that, if people accuse the president of trying to transfer wealth from rich to poor, there are people that make the argument that QE transfers wealth from poor to rich, because when you are trying to inflate asset prices, you have some collateral damage to asset prices that maybe you don't want to inflate, like grain and milk and gasoline and things like that. So that's my understanding that's kind of the big argument, that it is bad for those that are against it. I don't. What are some other arguments that you really hear that are anti-QE?
The only argument I hear that's anti-QE is generally from what I'll call the contrarian economist view, who claim that we're creating an asset bubble in real estate and stocks with cheap money. And I don't go along with that argument.
Right.
And I actually did take a few economics classes in college and in grad school. But there's clearly a vocal group of folks who believe we're creating an asset bubble. The interesting thing today, as I mentioned earlier, was gold. Man, they just crushed gold at the end. I write notes for the show, and my notes had gold down $9, and it gapped $15 lower after that. in a matter of minutes. So that was kind of interesting. And we took out, not only did we gap down, but we took out 1,300. It'll be interesting to see if we can hold this range because, gold really for the last month and a half has been in that range of 1,300, 1,400, give or take a little. And anytime you talk about gold, the gold buffs, send you the emails that say you don't understand it's going to 5,000. But boy, they sold it off rapidly this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a gold bug, but yeah, GLD below $125. Can you imagine? When gold was trading 160, how people thought that it was going to 200, and here we are. It's got a better chance of breaking 100 than it does 200 right now.
And the gold buffs are very vocal people. And anytime you say anything contrary about gold rallying, my mailbox just fills up.
Of course.
So be interesting to see. We're trading 1280 and change now. If we don't hold here, we could take out 1,200 down into the 1,100 range quickly, and especially if the dysfunction is diminished out in D.C.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and aside from that, those are kind of the big stories of the day.
Mark, what were you telling your subscribers today? What were you?
I think that if this deal really gets signed, I have no problem. Here's what I tell people is I like selling a 16.5 VIX with a deal in place better than I like selling an 18 VIX wondering. The fact that we've still got some relatively elevated volatility and, we now kind of have what looks like a pretty solid deal in place. This is a better opportunity to sell than when I think the futures were trading at 19 because, I think from a probability standpoint, the odds are in your favor on a trade like that more here than they were, 2 days ago when things were really blowing up. Now I was saying, look at maybe putting your toe in the water on some longer term VXX. One thing I was telling people, people ask me, Mark, why do you decide to do VIX or VXX when you're putting on some sort of short player, a short vol play, or short contango play? And, my answer is it has to do with kind of the duration I'm looking for. There is a huge difference durationally from buying a December put in VXX and a December put in VIX. If you buy a put in December in VIX, what you're really doing is buying a short position on a December VIX future, in essence. There's some small differences, but that's going to be the best underlying. If you buy a put in VXX in December, you're buying consistent 30-day short, consistent 30-day exposure for the next 2.5 months. So there really is a big difference. And so the trade I was actually liking was a kind of longer duration trade in a name like VXX. I was also telling people, I think we could go right back to 1720 here in a couple of days. So those were my thoughts. A lot of people wonder why, because I'll flip back and forth between VIX and VXX. And, that was kind of an insight that I was kind of sharing with people this time around. It was really clear this time around.
Were you caught up in that trading glitch this morning in the VIX future?
Did not have an issue with that, thankfully. That was kind of a mess. Of course, on a day when the VIX is imploding, SIBO has all kinds of glitches. And that's the second kind of weird vol glitch. Did you hear about this big VXX trade that went up yesterday that went up, then it got taken down, and then it got put up again?
I did not, no.
Yeah, it was a really, really screwy trade. The guy did, and we're not going to do an odd block, but this will be our odd block. So the guy he bought 88,000 of the Nov 16 puts in VXX, sold 70,000 of the 15s, 70,000 of the 14s, and bought 106,000 of the 13s. And initially went up where he was paying 300,000 for the package. Then it got taken down, and then I guess with no commission, he ended up paying 500,000 somehow. So it was some sort of weird screw up, but it was an interesting trade, and he's probably not that pleased with this trade today. That's one of the problems with setting up these trades in names like VXX and VIX is that it is so easy on things like flies. It is so easy to overshoot your target on in some of these vol products, especially when the vol's a little juiced. Don't you think?
It's a condor?
It was a bear condor that they traded yesterday. It was that leaned a little bit short delta. He bought 88,000, sold 70, bought 106. 16, 15, 14, 13 in November.
So I'm not sure I fully understand what he was trying to do. I understand the sentiment of the trade.
Yes.
But I don't were those ratios some delta, or was it just he did it that way?
Yeah, I don't know. The delta on that, if you did it, if you did it yesterday, the delta on that trade, that's a good question, actually.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to take you down a path. I don't know. It's just strange. I mean, oftentimes you see those kind of ratios and you kind of scratch your head and you say,
right.
Well, it's not a structured product because he did it on VXX. So
right.
It's not a structured product. He got, something that's attached to it. The ratios you described, I simply don't understand.
Yeah. So if you did it 9 by 7 by, if you called it, let's just call it 9 by 7 by 7 by 10, you're looking at, I will tell you.
God, you would think someone trading that size would have a notion as to why they were setting up their ratios that way.
You would think, but doesn't necessarily mean that there was. You might be right. Yeah, so minus 180. And then, you know what? It was delta neutral.
And there we go.
It was a bear trade that happened, but it was delta neutral. So kind of interesting.
Interesting, yeah. It'd be interesting to watch what unwinds over the next few days as this thing moves, especially if the market keeps going up and VIX moves down. Be interesting to see what the unwinds look like. Yeah,
you can't imagine. I mean, with how much they imploded vol, no vol in VXX was in 12 points. He's probably still doing okay on the trade. Actually, he's probably doing great on the trade. But he should be looking to unwind here. And, if I'm him, there's a real chance that this blows right through 13 by November. I don't know why he would, So I can't imagine he's going to want to be in that thing for a very long time.
Well, we'll watch it and see how it plays out.
Yep. So, all right. Well, there was our consolidated trading block and odd block. But with that, we'll close things out and we'll move into the Xpress Block.
The Xpress Block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade where and when you want for every level of trading. From advanced charting, free daily trading ideas, and free educational resources, Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Best of all, Options Express allows you to trade stocks, options, and futures all in a single account on powerful yet easy-to-use trading platforms, including mobile devices. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio for your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
And of course, we're going to now hand things. This is the Xpress Block. And with that, I'm going to shut my yapper here for a few minutes. And we're going to let Alex have at it.
Thanks, Mark. We've talked a little bit about what the market did today. Huge move up, big decline in vol. I survey our desks before I come onto the show, and the equity desk, the equity options desk, just was busy all day. And I asked them if there was any tone, because lately it's been Facebook and Tesla. They kind of looked at me and shook their head and said, no, it was just everything today. Everything today. Some short covering, couple interesting questions from both sides, both the equities and futures side about gold. I think a lot of people were surprised by that move in gold today, and especially the move in the last 10 or 15 minutes, although it isn't the last 10 or 15 minutes for gold. It's kind of, we think of it the last 10 or 15 minutes for the regular session of equities and options trading. Not a lot of activity in the rate market. I mean, little activity, but the 10-year at 268 down from the 270 area, and not a lot of movement in rates. The yen looks like it's getting away from Abe and not doing what he wanted to do. So that's kind of interesting. Keeping an eye on what's going on there. But I think the surprise on the future side today, gold is coming back a little bit. It's only down 22 now. Oil up $1 today. Again, not surprising. Especially if they're going to straighten things out, then there won't be a big impact on the economy. But overall, it was a busy day. And as Mark and I have both pointed out today, it was essentially green lights on everything except volatility, the VIX itself, the volatility ETNs, and the metals.
Well, there you have it. Quite the day. So thank you for that. And with that, we'll roll out of the Xpress Block, and we'll roll into Around the Block.
Around the Block.
And if you can't figure out what Around the Block is by now, you've got bigger problems than your option trading. So, Alex, what do you think? What do you see in the cards in the near future for the market? What are you going to be watching, say, beyond the debt ceiling debate?
So, Google earnings next Thursday. Always exciting. Keeping an eye on the 10-year. But to your point, we'll be watching Washington, and if they kick the can down the road, we're going to grind for a little bit, although I think the grinding tone will have a sort of an upward bias to it because rates are good, and I don't think the economy had that much damage from the week out. But you just can't not watch Washington. It's just too important here. And we'll be looking at the bills as a gauge of what the marketplace is saying, and we'll keep an eye on the 10-year.
Yeah, I mean, I think one interesting point, Alex, is just because they signed the debt ceiling doesn't mean the government's going to open up. And so we're still going to be waiting on data, all kinds of things. What kind of data flush are we going to get if and when we actually get the government to quote unquote reopen? That could be a really interesting thing. One might argue that there's going to be more volatility caused by the government reopening than by the government being shut down.
Yeah, you can make that case. I'm watching the tape now, and we're taping this on Thursday the 10th after the close, and employment numbers were poor this morning, but again, there was an explanation for that. Retail sales just came by on the tape, and it said September disappointed. So again, there is some news, but I don't think anything is going to overtake the dysfunction in D.C. As I say, Google's earnings next week will be interesting. Earnings season started this week, and Alcoa, which is the one that gets the most attention because it's the first one, was a non-event because people are so worried about what's going on in D.C. So hopefully we can get back to focusing on Google and what's going on in retail and the unemployment numbers, and we'll get some farm data when the government gets back. I don't know how you trade the commodity market here without government data, but
it's interesting.
Hopefully things get back normal.
Yeah, you're right. And an interesting thing coming out of this is that the good companies did not sell off as much as the junk, and they're recovering faster. So, one thing we did kind of talk about, I was talking with Stephanie Link. I don't know if you know her or not, but she's the chief investment officer at the Street. And, she basically was looking at the market, and smart people looked at this sell-off as an opportunity to try and find some companies they liked. It was kind of it'll be interesting to see how long people are willing to ride these quote-unquote cheap buys they got because of the government.
Yeah, you did, to your point, Mark, a handful of things did go on sale. Some of the drug stocks went on sale. Some of the biotech stocks went on sale. And, of course,
Facebook.
Facebook had a couple of really difficult days. Tesla didn't sell off that much, but Tesla's kind of interesting because every time it down ticks, somebody peeks their head out and says, "I told you so," and then of course it ends up $4 that day. Tesla didn't do great today, given what what the market had done today. You looked at stuff with momentum of Tesla, and you said Tesla should have been up 12 or 15 or $18 today. It was only up a couple bucks. Apple stealth rally keeps moving higher. Looks like it'll take out 500. One of the perennial favorites up here, Lululemon, which has bounced in the last couple months between the 80s, and then disappointing earnings took it back into the 60s. Lulu's been creeping back up towards the high 70s and the $80 range. So a lot of stuff went on sale. And will it be a good sale or a bad sale? It we'll have the clarity of hindsight in a couple weeks. But 300-point move today.
Crazy.
Again, to your point, Mark, as bad as it looked, we only got down into the 14,008 and change.
Yep.
Coming off the 15.6 level. A lot of people would say, well, it's not that terrible of a sell-off. And
5%.
Also to your point, the good stuff didn't really get beat up that much.
Yeah. So that's absolutely right. So, Alex, anything exciting going on at Options Express?
Yeah, there's a bunch of interesting stuff going on. I'll just showcase a couple of events. Next Saturday, not this Saturday, Jimmy Ruzan will be out in San Diego doing an all-day live event that is simulcast. Idea Hub for Futures could be released in the next few business days. So if you're an OX Futures customer, look for that in the Idea Hub. If you're an OX customer, by the way, who is not futures enabled, you'll be able to land on Idea Hub for Futures. But if you click on it, it's going to tell you that you're going to need to enable your account for futures. So we're excited here. I'm especially excited. It's like bringing out one of my grandchildren, and I won't have grandchildren until January. My oldest. And enough about me. But
good for you, man.
Monday, Columbus. Yeah, end of January, my oldest is due. Monday, Columbus Day. Markets are open.
Even though
even though I don't think we're doing a show on Monday. 2 webinars on Monday, Delta and short puts. Wednesday, David Hightower will be doing his overview of the futures market. David writes the well-known Hightower letter. And again on Saturday, come see Jimmy Ruzan in San Diego. If you don't, if you're in the San Diego area or you're not in the San Diego area, come to the site. You don't have to have an account. You can go to the education tab, and we simulcast the event. And the cool thing about being on the site is you can be home in your robe and slippers with a cup of hot chocolate and still be interactive. You can ask questions, pose questions right to Jimmy right there at the hotel in San Diego. So fairly busy week.
That is a busy week.
What do you got going on, Mark?
Not a lot. I want everybody to be on the lookout. Mark Longo and I are working on a little project together, and I think it's going to be some sort of class for traders that I think people are going to really like. We're going to probably, Option Pit's going to be starting its free webinar series again, probably in the next 2 weeks. So look out for both of those to be coming your way. And that's what we got going on here. So.
Hey, how was the All-Stars event at McCormick Place last weekend?
It was actually really nice. Good audience, good people. It was actually a very, very nice event. I really enjoyed being there, and I had some good questions from the audience.
Never ceases to amaze me how hungry investors are for knowledge about options. As long as I've been in this business, good markets, bad markets, it never ceases to amaze me how many young faces, how many new folks want to come out and learn, and just looking for great learning resources. The age of the internet has changed us a lot. I remember in the early days of SIBO when we do an OEX presentation and we'd have 3,000 people and have to expand the room, and but yeah, people want to learn and they want resources, and they love the opportunity to come out and meet the face behind the voice that they've heard. So yeah, glad to hear that. That's great.
Yeah, no, what was interesting was that it was funny. I got a lot of good questions, but at per usual, I had I think at least 3 or 4 people walk up to me with a chart of VXX and say, "What is going on here?" It was that's the one thing that I consistently see at these trade shows is or these educational events. At least 1 or 2 people will pull me aside and ask me to explain and say, "What's going on with VXX?" So, although the funny thing is, I had dinner with some broker. I was having beers with some brokers yesterday, and I asked them, I said, what do you think the opening price of VXX is split adjusted? And, they all guessed like $80. It's closer to like 1,800. So it was definitely, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's one of the great things about Options Express is that they're out there pushing their clients to learn and to grow and offering these great educational events. And as someone who, I know Jim Roseanne pretty well, and, he is good people and somebody that you should absolutely look to learn from if you get the opportunity to be in the same location as him. The man knows what he's talking about.
Yep. Saturday in San Diego, just come to the site. You can register. The event is free. And as I say, if you don't want to head to the hotel, it's simulcast on the site, and it's fully interactive. And Jimmy is a great guy. Jimmy is fun.
He's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, cool event.
All right. Cool. Well, with that, we will let you all be, and we'll see you next time on the Option Block.
Become a part of the Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved. preceding program was a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/radio or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.